Did you know that Einstein, the man who had all these contributions to quantum mechanics, he had imposter syndrome? Isaac Newton had imposter syndrome, the man who basically discovered calculus. If these great men who have contributed so much to the world have imposter syndrome, what makes you think you and I won't have imposter syndrome? Welcome to the Mindset Mentors podcast. This is episode 25, and today I'm going to be talking about a subject that we all at some point in our lives have faced, and we all have some point in our lives allowed it to cloud our judgment and stop us from going after our goals and our dreams. And that is this feeling of imposter syndrome. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about what imposter syndrome is, and then I'm going to give you 5 ways in where you can beat imposter syndrome and actually transmute those feelings of imposter syndrome to become the best version of yourself, to go and attain the things that you want. Also, I want to say that if you are watching this right now, I am probably somewhere in India on an adventure, going through the Himalayas and traveling across North India and South India. So if you want to follow that journey as well, you can follow me on my Instagram, and my Instagram is in the description of this video. And yeah, so grab your juice, grab your popcorn, and let's get into it. Before we can talk about imposter syndrome and how we can beat it, I think we should kind of get awareness of what imposter syndrome is. Okay. So, imposter syndrome is this feeling of being found out. It's this feeling of being found out as a fraud. Okay. It's this feeling of that you don't deserve to be in a place that you are. It usually manifests in a way where you maybe get a job that you worked really, really hard for, but once you get to that job, you don't feel like you deserve to be there. Okay. You feel like you don't deserve a certain raise or you don't deserve a promotion. And you feel like that internal feeling of I'm a fraud, I'm going to be found out. And once they find me, I'm going to be shamed publicly for it. And it's a very isolating feeling because you don't share these things with people, right? Because this is a internal deep fear that you feel, and you feel this internal deep sense of I don't deserve this, I don't feel like I belong here, I don't think I am smart enough for this. And these feelings, the more you bottle it up and the more you keep it inside of you, the more you're going to show up in the world as someone that doesn't believe that you deserve certain things. And a lot of times when we feel like we don't deserve certain things, we go out there and we self-sabotage it because we're afraid that we're going to be found out, that we kind of surrender to that feeling of feeling like an imposter, where you actually go out there and sabotage the good things that are coming to you that you actually deserve. So that's why it's so important to understand imposter syndrome. And that's why it's so important for us to tackle imposter syndrome early on and be aware of what it is. So when it comes up and those feelings come up, you know how to address it appropriately. So you actually can enjoy the things that you have worked hard to get. So now let's get into how we beat it, right? The number one way of beating imposter syndrome is integrity. Okay. So what is integrity? Integrity is the simple fact of doing what you say you're going to do and only saying what you are doing. Okay. So it's basically, in a nutshell, integrity is practicing what you preach. A lot of times when we're not in alignment with our integrity, we may show up in the world in a certain way. We may give all this advice to people in a certain way and have this front about us and say, I am this, I am that, and all of these things that we put up as a front to the public. But behind closed doors, you are nothing that you say you are. Why is this bad? Because you know, your subconscious knows, and even consciously, you know that you are not who you say you are. And that is essentially, in a nutshell, what integrity is. When you show up in the world exactly the way that you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you're never going to be out of alignment with your integrity. Even if you're a bad person in private and you show up as a bad person in public, you're still going to be in alignment with that integrity because you are who you say you are. The moment that we act a certain way, we put up a front in public, and you know behind closed doors that you are actually not that. For example, let's say that I'll use myself as an example, okay? So if I'm telling people that you shouldn't be lazy, you shouldn't be scrolling on your phone, you should have better habits like reading more books and, going on walks, and I'm preaching all these things, but behind closed doors, if I am scrolling on my phone and I am lazy and I am not taking myself out on walks and I am not journaling and I am not meditating, I'm going to feel really crappy about myself because I myself know that I'm a fraud, right? So the number one way to beat imposter syndrome and getting ahead of imposter syndrome or prevent yourself from feeling imposter syndrome is to be of someone of integrity. Always say what you mean and mean what you say. Do what you're going to say and follow through with it. Be the person who you are behind closed doors and outside in the world. That is true integrity. And you'll be surprised to see a lot of people don't actually have that integrity. And because they don't have that confidence in themselves and because they don't truly believe who they say they are themselves, it's really hard for them to reach their full potential in life. Because just imagine if they just follow through with everything that they say that they are, how much farther they will actually go in the real world. So be mindful and be vigilant of who you present yourself to be and who you actually are behind closed doors. Nothing will prepare you for a life of success that integrity will. Nothing will give you the kind of internal confidence like your integrity will. The number two way of beating imposter syndrome is to be authentic. Okay, it kind of goes along with the whole integrity thing, but authenticity is a little bit more different, right? Authenticity is accepting who you are as a person and showing up in the world as that person. Authenticity is the simple act of not running away from who you truly are. It's a simple act of loving yourself in all of your good, bad, and the ugly. When you start running towards yourself and your true story and the things that actually happen in your life, which you may not want to necessarily want to share that with the world, but you acknowledging the bad stuff that happened to you in your life and running towards that story, the more you run towards yourself. The more you try to avoid certain things and avoid certain experiences that you had and avoid the bad things that you maybe went through your life, and the more you don't think about it, the more you're actually running away from yourself. So authenticity is running towards who you really are, running towards your true story, and then showing up in the world as that true self. I'm actually a very introverted person, to be very honest with you, okay? I am not the loudest person that you would meet in the room. When I meet someone for the first time, I am not so loud. I actually take my time to read the room, read the person, and then slowly take my time to get to know that person. Even in large groups, in large rooms, I am not the loudest person. I know that about myself and I accept that about myself. Okay? Showing up authentically is showing up with who you are 100% and not being embarrassed by your story. It's running towards your story. Okay? And the more you accept yourself and the more you're able to be vulnerable and share that vulnerable side with people, not only are you reducing the feeling of loneliness amongst other people, but you are also opening doors for other people to also be their authentic self. And on a spiritual side, the frequency of authenticity is much greater than the frequency of love. I think it's about 400 times greater than the frequency of love. Imagine, right? We think that love is the greatest thing in the world. We think that love is what makes the world go round, and that's so all of that is true. But what's higher than that? That's authenticity. And when you show up with your most authentic self without being afraid of judgment, public shame, failure, all of these other fears, right? The more authentically you accept yourself and show up in the world the way that you are with the good, bad, and the ugly, and you truly internally also believe that, the less you're probably going to be affected by imposter syndrome because you believe who you are and you show up in the world and how you believe you are to be. And that will create more of a trust as well when you're going out to, for example, create businesses or in your jobs or whatever, right? You're able to create more of a trust feeling with people with authenticity, and you're allowing people to also be comfortable with being their authentic self. And how beautiful is that? If every single one of us can just show up in the world the way we are without being afraid of judgment, without being afraid of failure and public mockery and criticism, the world would just be so much more of a beautiful place. The third way you're going to beat imposter syndrome is by getting rid of the idea of perfectionism. Perfectionism does not exist. Okay, that is actually the first episode that I made on the Mindset Mentors podcast is about how perfectionism is something that you can never attain because it simply doesn't exist. You just have to be better today than you were yesterday. You just have to take the step 1 foot in front of the other and just keep getting better and better and better and better. And that's all you can do. There's no end goal that you're trying to get because that perfection end goal doesn't exist. So when you get rid of this idea of that you need to be perfect, you're able to approach imposter syndrome with a little bit more self-compassion, with this feeling of I know I'm not perfect, accepting that you're not perfect. You're going to not be as worried of being an imposter or being found out as a fraud because you have so much self-compassion for yourself and understanding that you are not perfect, that you are not invincible, that you are bound to make mistakes, that you are bound to criticism, and that's okay. You have to be open to criticism as well. Let me say that, you're not always going to be 100% at anything that you do, and that's okay. And having that mindset of self-compassion and being okay with not being perfect will reduce the stress and anxiety that you feel when feelings of imposter syndrome come up. You essentially just have to almost get out of your own way, right? As long as you are always putting one foot in front of the other and you're just always just moving to become better, better, and better. Sometimes those leaps may be big, sometimes they may be really, really small, but as long as you're just taking a little step towards who you need to be the best version of yourself, to feel good about yourself, and to learn a new skill or get a new job or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, you're going to feel less like an imposter because you know that you're always growing and learning and you're going to get better and you're not perfect. No one is actually perfect. No one is 100% there. The fourth way you're going to get rid of imposter syndrome is by celebrating your wins. I don't care how big or how small the wins are, you celebrate everything. Because what happens when you celebrate your wins, small or big, is you are rewiring your brain to show yourself that you deserve it. You're rewiring your brain to show the progress that you have made. You're rewiring your brain to be proud of yourself. You have to be proud of yourself. Because another thing that happens when you're proud of yourself and you truly celebrate who you are is that you're not too worried about how other people are going to perceive you. And why is that good in beating feelings of imposter syndrome? Is because you know who you are. You are proud of yourself. You believe in yourself. You have bought into who you are and what you're selling to the world. And by selling to the world, I'm not saying like, products or services. I'm saying you are completely bought in to who you are as a person and you show up in the world as that person fully. And that's why you have to celebrate the wins, small and big. I always celebrate my wins. I don't care how big it is, how small it is. To me, if I feel like I have been working towards something and I get a little breadcrumb, and I'm going to talk about spirituality and the universe here. When I get a little breadcrumb from the universe where I get a little message from someone that I really look up to telling me that I'm doing something good or something that I did help them in a certain way, I am so happy. Even when I get one message from somebody listening to me, either it's through like social media or YouTube, and I get a message saying, hey, this was really cool, I like take that and I celebrate it and I run with that. Even if I get one comment on my video, I am celebrating that because I love that. I believe that every single little moment of breadcrumbs from the universe is taking me towards my success and towards my goals. And I love that. And the more you celebrate things, the more you feel good about things, the more you feel good about yourself, the more creativity you're able to express in the world. And what happens as a result of that? Good things come into your life. The way you're going to attract more good things into your life is by just feeling good in your every single present moment. And I spoke about this in so many different episodes in the past. The underlining feeling of attracting good things into your life and attracting the things that you want is by just feeling good in the present moment. And I'm not saying it's going to be like that, right? Sometimes it might fall in like that. Sometimes it might take a little bit more time for momentum to increase and to get your big, big breakthroughs and get your big goals. But every little thing along the way, you have to celebrate because that is what keeps life exciting and fun and motivating. So why, again, is celebrating the little things helping you in beating imposter syndrome? It helps you because you rewire your brain and you tell yourself that I deserve this. The more you tell yourself, I deserve this, I deserve this, I deserve this, I'm going to make it, I am making a difference, I deserve this, you believe it. And when you believe it, you're not going to feel feelings of imposter syndrome or feel like a fraud. You only feel like a fraud if you don't believe who you are or who you say you are. But if you believe it, you feel like you deserve it, you're not going to feel imposter syndrome. And the fifth thing I want to talk about and how to beat imposter syndrome is to purely accept the fact that it is going to come up. I know it might sound a little counterintuitive of what I was talking about this episode because I was talking about how to beat it. But the fifth point, and this is going to be kind of like the catch of imposter syndrome, is knowing that you're always going to feel it, especially if you are a person who always wants to grow. If you are a person who always focuses on growing and learning and becoming better and going after the next goal and the next goal, you are going to feel imposter syndrome and accept it. Okay? Did you know that Einstein, the man who had all these contributions to quantum mechanics and the Nobel Prize for theory of relativity, he had imposter syndrome. Einstein had imposter syndrome. Taking it another level further, right? Isaac Newton had imposter syndrome. Isaac Newton, the man who basically discovered calculus, had imposter syndrome. And isn't that crazy? If these great men who have contributed so much to the world have imposter syndrome, what makes you think you and I won't have imposter syndrome? You know, greatness needs you to always keep pushing your boundaries, always keep pushing yourself to learn and grow and get better and better and better. And what happens when every time you're trying to go up that next level, every time you go up to a next level, you're going to have to go through the challenges to get to that next level, just like a video game, right? Every single level is going to get a little bit tougher, a little bit tougher. But in those moments where it gets tougher is when you have to remind yourself, especially when feelings of imposter come up, that that's normal to feel like an imposter because you are just pushing through that boundary to get to the next level. And once you get to that next level, you're good. You've mastered that level previously, and that feeling of imposter syndrome is going to go away for that level. But the moment you want to go to the next level, you're going to have to face new things, face new demons, learn new things. So the bottom line is with imposter syndrome is that you are going to feel it and it's going to come up throughout the rest of your life through many, many, many situations, especially if you are someone that wants to grow and improve every single day. So with that, I want to conclude this episode. I hope you were able to get something out of it. With this episode, I just wanted to bring your awareness to what imposter syndrome is. And know that the next time you're feeling feelings of inadequacy come up, feelings of you don't deserve to be in a certain room, those feelings of you don't deserve certain things, good things in your life, when those feelings come up and you feel like you're not smart enough for something, you don't feel like you don't deserve to be in a certain room, when those feelings of inadequacy come up, remind yourself that in that moment that you are feeling feelings of imposter syndrome. And in those moments, remind yourself that you need to realign with who you are as a person. Reevaluate if you are acting with integrity. Reevaluate if you are showing up in the world authentically. Reevaluate if who you are internally is who you are externally. Think about if you are trying to show up in the world with so much perfectionism that you're losing touch with what truly matters. Reevaluate if you are putting so much pressure on yourself to be perfect. Remind yourself that perfection does not exist. And end of the day, have so much self-compassion for yourself to celebrate all the wins, accept yourself for the good and the bad. And above all, be the person in the world of who you truly are behind closed doors. And express to the world what is truly in your inner world. And that's how you can work through feelings of imposter syndrome. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel and also subscribe to me on Spotify. If you want to follow me on my social media, all of that is linked in the description. Another thing that I do is I take people on group trips around the world. I'm taking a group to Peru in May of 2025. So if you want to join that group trip, that link is also in the description. And there are currently 2 spots that are open at early bird pricing. So grab your spots as soon as you can. The bookings will be closing end of the month. So if you want to travel the world and connect with like-minded people around the world, spiritually, emotionally, and also have an adventurous time in Peru. Don't forget to join me and sign up for the trip there. And don't forget to comment on this video. If you have anything you want to say, add to what I've shared this video, please comment, and I'll see you next week with another fun topic. Bye, guys.